Do I have your permission to record you for my physical assessment class?
Yes.
Okay. Today what we're going to do is we're going to do the musculoskeletal system. We're going to divide it up into the upper extremities and the lower extremities. So right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the upper extremities, and I'm going to start by assessing and inspecting your hands and your fingers. Okay? Bless you.
Thank you.
Right now what I'm looking for is any kind of swelling. I'm looking for deformity. I'm looking for any type of muscular atrophy. Do I see any nodules, any redness? Okay, and everything looks normal. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to do some what they call some range of motion. So what I'm going to have you actually do right now is I want you to make a fist. Okay, perfect. The next thing I want you to do is to flex and extend your fingers. So I want you to flex your fingers, and then you can go ahead and extend the fingers. There we go. Good. Now the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to have you to adduct your fingers. So with adduction, what that means is you're going to move. Well, let's start with abduct. Abducting means taking away. So I want you to kind of space your finger perfect apart. Good. And then the next thing I'm going to have you do is what we call adduct. I'm going to have you bring the fingers back kind of together. Perfect. 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 Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do palpation. Okay. I'm going to palpate the distal and proximal, okay, interphalangeals. Again, checking for nodules. I just want to see if there's any abnormalities. I'm also going to be palpating the metacarpal phalangeals, okay. Let me see the other hand. Okay, and everything feels and looks normal there. So the next part that we're going to go to is going to be the wrist. And again, same thing with the wrist. I want to inspect and check to see if I see any nodules, any swelling. I'm looking again for any kind of atrophy. I want to see if things are symmetrical or not. Do I see nodules? Do I see bumps? And everything looks normal. So everything looks good there. So now what I'm going to have you do is I want you to flex your wrist downward for me, please, at a 90 degree. Perfect. And now I'm going to have you extend your wrist up. Very, very good. So everything looks good there. Now I'm going to check for your ulnar and your radial deviation. So for the ulnar deviation, I want you to take your right hand just like this and kind of to the right. Perfect. For the radial deviation, I'm checking. I'm going to have you do the same thing, but we're going to move it towards your perfect. And let me have you do the same thing with the other hand. Move it out. Perfect. And move it in. Perfect. Okay. So that's how we check for the ulnar and the radial deviation. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to palpate. Let me just palpate the bones of the wrist. Again, I'm checking the metacarpals. I'm seeing any pain, any tenderness. Do I feel any abnormalities? Again, no pain, no tenderness, no abnormalities. And you didn't have any pain or tenderness when I was pressing in on the joints of your fingers or your hands, were you? Okay, perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Okay. Now, there's a couple of specialty tests that we're able to do for the wrist. And it's a form of being able to check for carpal tunnel syndrome. So the first test is called the Tinel's test. So what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you hyperextend your wrist like this. And then what I would do is take my middle finger of my non-dominant hand and the middle finger of my dominant hand, and we're going to percuss here, right here down this median nerve. Any pain that you feel in your palms or anything lateral on the sides. We do the same thing with the other side. Again. Any pain down in the palm of the hands or down the sides. If he had pain or tenderness, that'd be a positive sign for carpal tunnel syndrome. The next test is a test called the Phelan's test. And again, it's a test for carpal tunnel syndrome. And what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you take your hands together as if you're praying. And I'm going to have you push your wrist together. Now, for the sake of the video and the time, what he would do in reality is hold that pressure, that pushing in for 40 to 60 seconds. You can go ahead and release. If there was any pain associated with doing that, that motion, that movement, that would be a possible indicator of carpal tunnel syndrome. Okay? Now, the next thing we're going to move to is we're going to move to the elbows. Once again, I'm going to go through my inspection. I am inspecting the elbows. I'm looking for nodules. I want to see, is there any bumps, any swelling? Let me see the other side, please. Okay, and everything looks and feels good. I'm also looking for symmetry. Okay, and everything looks good. And so then what I'm going to do now is we're going to do the range of motion. So what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you do flexion and extension. So I need for you to flex up and have you extend down. Perfect. Any pain or swelling or any, excuse me, not swelling, any pain? Okay, perfect. The next thing we're going to do is supination and pronation. So what I'm going to have you do is with your arms extended, just like that, elbows extended. Okay, I'm going to have you pronate, which is turning down. Any pain or anything. And I'm going to have you now supinate, which is facing up. They taught us in nursing school the way to remember that is act as if you're carrying a bowl of soup, and that would be supination. So perfect. You did that well. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to palpate. Again, I'm noting any pain, swelling, or nodules. So the first thing I'm going to do is I want to palpate the I want to make sure that I'm palpating the ulna, okay, the surface of it, okay, the olecranon process of the elbow, the lateral and the epicondyles, any pain or anything. Okay. Same thing on the other side. Any pain or anything? Yeah. Okay, perfect. Okay, so no nodules, no swelling, there was no pain or anything like that. I made sure that again, I did I don't know, hopefully it could see on the video, I made sure that I got, I checked on the surface of the ulna, okay? So running all up in here, okay? I made sure that I checked on the olecranon process, okay? And then I also made sure that I touched on the epicondyles, okay? And I did the same for both.